Hey guys, this is Woodworker Royer, and I wanted to do a comparison today on rust and powder coating removal techniques. I'm working on my roof rack for my truck. It holds lumber and that kind of thing. And you can see over here what it typically looks like. When I started, it had it's got a little bit of dirt on it, but it's got a bunch of rust, it's got a bunch of powder coating. And down here you can see as well, it was in pretty bad shape. I've stripped off a lot of it, but I'm still working on a lot of other parts. Right here, I have an area. I hope you guys can actually see that. I can't really see my screen right now because the sun is at the perfect angle. But right here you can see what my sanding wheel did, and I'll show you that. Bought a cheap drill right here. It's a 7-amp hammer drill from Menards if you want one. I haven't tried the hammered function, but it works pretty well for what I'm using it for, which is a fiber disc backing plate just chucked into the drill with a, I think, 30 or 40 grit fiber disc. And that is what gives me this surface here. Now if you look at that, you can kind of see pass. It's kind of faceted, and you can see how it's reflecting differently. Now over here, I have a much smoother surface that is a lot more uniform, and that is from an angle grinder with one of these paint stripping discs. Now, I absolutely love these things. They're amazing. The problem with them is if you come across they really don't do that great against heavy rust. If it's really thick, heavy stuff like in here, they won't do that well. They'll work, but it'll take a while. They really do pretty good. They're very flexible. You can push down on it, and that's why I'm getting as good of a surface as I have here. Now there's some places, let me see if I can see the angle right. There's a few areas in here where you can kind of see it's a little bit darker. And I think that's a little bit of the paint being, or powder coating being left. I mean, this is a lumber rack. I'm not looking for perfection here. I'm just looking for mostly, the rust is gone. And then I'm going to hit it with some rusty metal primer from Rust-Oleum. I don't know how good that is, but that's what I'm going to use. It's cheap, so that's the main thing I'm looking for. And this thing, my truck is in the rust belt. It's already 25 years old. If I got another, I moved out from California, which is where it was at. If I get another 10 years out of it, I'd be surprised. And I guarantee if I did nothing to this at all, it would last 10 years. And then the truck is going to be rotted out and worse than this. And so it doesn't really matter what I do with this. That said, I'm going to try and do as good as I can, but it's going to be a budget job. So looks aren't really the biggest factor. This is probably as good of a surface finish as I'm going to get. And my main purpose is to take off this kind of stuff down here. Come on, focus. There we go. This kind of stuff down here where it's really rough, bad rust. So that's the goal. But I just wanted to show you what the difference is. So again, this is basically a sanding disc with pretty stiff backing pad with 36 or 40 grit fiber disc, and you can see how it's faceted. Over here you have a paint stripping disc, which is a lot better finish. I would be pretty comfortable painting this if I was going to if I didn't care about I'm going to paint this too, but this would be what I'd be looking for if I was going to be painting, and I didn't really care about it. This is more of just, I'm getting it done, and that's the end of it. The problem with these, and the reason I'm not using these exclusively, is for one thing, the angle grinder can't get in places quite as well as the drill can in instances. And also these are like $5 or $10 a piece, depending on what brand and quality and all that. Flap wheels are terrible. At least these Hart ones are, in my opinion. You can see how worn that is. I'm not a fan. I've never found anything that those do very well. I rarely use them because every time I try to use them, I'm using them on paint and they just don't do that great. So that may be because I'm using it on paint, but it just doesn't seem to work that well. The other thing is a belt sander. So I've got a finger or file sander, depending on what you call it. It's just a really narrow belt sander. And you can see how that left. It's a pretty coarse finish. I think that this is like an 80 grit, 60 or 80 grit belt. You can get them up to like 180, 120, 180, depending on that, depending on where you can get them. Harbor Freight carries them. That's where I think those are from. And then Home Depot sells some, but both of them are very limited as to like grits. I think 120 or 180 is as fine as you can get. Someplace like Klingspor might have a better selection, but this is, I mean, I have what I have. I'd really like to get some more belts for it, but I just haven't invested the time to look yet. But that's the kind of finish that you get from that. And that, by the way, is using this side here where the belt can move. It doesn't have the platen behind it here where it's completely flat. I get a little bit of bend here. By the way, if you're looking for a tool, I really love this this Ryobi here. It is very nice. It's bulky, but it's very nice for what it does. The only downside that I don't like is the wheel at the front is quite hard. I believe you can see the metal insert in it. It's quite hard, and so it kind of, if you use the tip of it, it has a tendency to like peck. Basically, it's bouncing because it hits something happen. I imagine the seam on the belt hits. It doesn't have anything to absorb it really, other than a piece of hard rubber, and so it bounces off, and it chatters a lot. So that's that. Again, $30 drill from Menards. If you're looking for one, it works pretty well. I haven't had any problems with it. I haven't tried the hammer mode because sanding, I don't think hammer mode would really help me sanding this. That's about the only thing I haven't tried. But angle grinder works really well. Again, I love these discs. The only problem with them is that they're expensive. If they weren't so expensive, I would be a lot more interested in getting them. But they're not as fast as a fiber disc. And that's mainly because if you felt I don't know how well you can see that, but it looks really coarse because it's basically it's not technically this, it's not this brand or anything like that, but if you looked at like a Scotch-Brite pad, that plastic weave or non-woven technically, that's basically what this pad is made out of. You can see it's just a plastic piece with some air vents in there to cool it, and then it's got that plastic weave stuff glued on, and in the glue they embedded abrasive material. These work really well. The problem is that abrasive material tends to be 60 or 80 grit, which is great for giving you a nice surface finish, but it's not very coarse compared to something like, well, let's see, what is this one? That's 150 grit. That doesn't help my case. This is 60 grit, and you can see that compared to something like this. What is this? 50 grit. So even that, I mean, there's not a huge difference there, but it is a difference. This one's also 50 grit. Man, none of these are helping me. But yeah, so, and then you've got something like 150 grit right here compared to, you can see the grit size difference. This would take forever. but on a drill it tends to work really well pretty quickly. On something like the angle grinder, I think the angle grinder goes a little bit too fast for using sanding discs, at least those. This doesn't give a bad finish, it just takes a long time. And even with this powder coating, there's like an oxidized layer. Let's see if I can, that's not helping. Basically there's like an oxidized layer. This will take that off really quickly, and then it'll leave like a secondary layer underneath that's still bonded to the steel. And then you have to really work at that to remove it. Well, my sanding pad right there, or belt sander, or the paint stripper, just takes that right off, all of it. And this is just kind of like, okay, well, what was the point of this thing? Oh, here you can see. This is what the flap wheel did. Now, this is a cheap one. Maybe the better ones work better. I haven't tried my Pferd brand one yet, but you can see right here in the middle, there's bare metal, and around that you can kind of see like a primer or base layer for the stuff, and then the actual, I really wish that you would stay focused where I'm telling you, phone. Then you can see like the oxidized layer out here. The flap wheel takes the top layer off really quickly, and then it leaves that bottom layer still bonded, and you have to really work at it to get it off. Any of the sandpaper, it all comes off. It's all down to bare metal. It doesn't really care when it hits rust, other than leaving, let me see if I can find, I don't really have a good spot to show you, but it leaves pitting is the only issue. So like you could see here how bad that rust is. It's down in there under everything. It's chipped the I think this is powder coat, but paint, whatever. It's chipped it off. It's gotten down there. It's pitted down there, and so it's no good. That's the only thing that the sandpaper doesn't really do a great job with, is getting down into those pits and removing the rust in them. Which is, this does a little bit better because it's flexible. A wire wheel, those just take forever. I've got knotted ones, I've got non-knotted ones, I've got good ones, big ones, all over the place, and they just take forever. I like the finish that they give. It's really close to this, but it just takes a long time. With the sanding disc on a sander, which I actually have over here, with a sanding disc on this type of sander, this is a 5-inch disc sander, that works very well. Not quite as fast as it would on an angle grinder, because you've only got like what, 4,000 RPM, 4,100 RPM on this guy. It works really fast. The only problem is, because of all the dust collection and all that kind of thing, you've got a lot of bulk up here near the disc, versus this, where you can really get down in there. You have to be careful you don't grab anything with it. The other thing is, with this, it's got a flexible pad. This is flexible, but it's hard. It's basically hard plastic, so it doesn't grab as badly as this. So I can get in here under these hooks with this, and do a lot better job than I can with this. This has no hope of doing that, because if I don't rip the cord off of it, like right here, you're gonna hit this, and you don't really have all that great of control there. So the drill is just basically a version of this that's a little bit cheaper to get pads and things for, because these fiber discs are cheaper. Mostly because I had them. I don't remember what they actually cost, but since I had them, they're cheaper than getting new pads for this. And the new pads for this I really like the Diablo ones, but the sand net, I think. But I don't have a Home Depot within easy driving distance, about half an hour away, and I don't want to make multiple trips there when I've already got, you know, half a dozen of these things. These last a long time. I was going through these guys. You can see I've been doing this for a while. This is a 50 grit sanding disc. I go through one of these about every 15 minutes. I've been sanding with this guy for, I don't know, 3 times, 4 times as long. And it was just starting to get enough buildup on it that, and you can see how shiny that is. It's basically clogged. And it's still got some usable place in the middle. This guy is also shiny, but it's just because of the finish of the paint that they used. But anyway, these last a lot more time than this does. So anyway, I hope that helps. Long story short, the reason for the video is I just wanted to show the different finishes that you get from different tools, and how you can strip rust off of things. I don't have an air compressor that's anywhere near big enough to use a sandblaster. I really wish I did. It's not even big enough to use a paint gun. So I get to do this whole job with rattle cans, which I don't really care, but if I had a bigger air compressor, I wouldn't have to do that. And I'd already be done with this because I would have just bought a sandblaster and called it a day. But anyway, so obviously a sandblaster is better. I've heard people say that a needle scaler would do really well. That sounds awful. I don't know if I've ever seen a pistol grip needle scaler. They all seem to be the inline version. And holding something that's like 20 inches long on a round thing and expecting it to hit an impact and not just bounce off. That doesn't sound very realistic. I've never used one, so I don't know. But also the other thing is I would want to spend more than $30 at Harbor Freight to get one. And I've got a 6-gallon air compressor, so I'd probably get like 10 seconds of use before my air compressor had to fill up the rest of the way. And it's just not worth it. I'd rather, I mean, I can get this for $30, so same price, use stuff that I already have, and it's ready to go. So I might get a needle scaler someday, but it'll probably be when I have a bigger air compressor that can actually run it for more than 2 minutes at a time, or more like 10 seconds at a time. So anyway, if you have any recommendations on how to finish this, whether or not, again, my plan is I'm going to leave it like this. I'm just going to hit it with rusty metal primer. If you have any recommendations and then probably a top coat of some sort. If you have any recommendations on how to, on whether or not this will just make it look absolutely terrible, let me know. I don't think it's going to matter because, again, it's a rattle can job with, you know, rust orange paint. I don't think it's going to look worse than it did before I was doing it. At least it'll be a uniform color. Again, it's a matte paint. I don't really see how it could be that bad. But if you have experience otherwise, let me know. I don't want to make it look awful, but I also don't really want to spend a whole lot of money on it. So, or time. I've already been working on this way too long. But anyway, hope you guys liked the video. I hope this helped you. And this is Woodworker Royer out.